Hello and welcome to our daily sketching routine. It is Friday the 13th, December 13th, 2024, and today's topic will be, I'm going to call it Intermediate Concepts for Illustration. And I'll explain, but before we get into it, welcome back if you are returning, welcome if you're new. I sketch and post every day, and I use timers to stay focused and to build a sketching habit, so feel free to use these videos as a way to stay motivated. I'm going to use a 10-minute timer, and this video might be kind of long, I'm not sure, because it's conceptual, it's intermediate concepts for illustration, but I think it'll be helpful for anyone that's interested in drawing. And it started off kind of interesting this morning because, just to kind of get into this video here, I did a video of this and this portrait, and it was to practice doing like a dark skin tone with markers, because on this page, which is what I've been doing all week, I was using some markers and I wanted to practice some more. And I actually recorded a video of this, but I spent so much time figuring out how the markers worked and how I wanted to use them and stuff that it wasn't that good of a video, but I could do another one where, now that I know the process a little bit better, and it was an experiment anyway, I wouldn't always do it this way, but I liked how it came out. But yeah, so after I did that, I was just kind of thinking about, well, what could I do since I already did that video? But yeah, it started off one way and then it ended up looking another way, and so I didn't think it made for a very good video or a good explanation of what I was doing. But yeah, like now I could explain it better. But then, and so I also don't really make it a point to check comments or anything. That's just my personal preference, because I don't want to be distracted by, because I usually have an idea of what I'm going to do, and so I just sit down and do it, which is what I did this morning. But then, yeah, I just didn't like the video. But then, yeah, as I was thinking about it, I saw a comment, which I appreciate any comments, asking about how to take like a sketch, for example, kind of like this, and how to make an actual illustration, like a full-blown illustration. So I thought that was a really good question, and I wanted to work on. So yesterday I said that I was working on this, and you can see that I made a lot of progress on it. It looks quite a bit different, but the same, but a lot more rendered, and I'm liking it. And that's kind of part of the process too of illustrating, because now it's basically an illustration. It's going from a sketch to, it could be an illustration. And so yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and like work on it some. But yeah, in yesterday's video I said that I was pretty much going to put it away, but then I ended up working on it later, and then I was actually going to just, yeah, put it away because I'm not using these videos as a reason for me to finish illustrations is what I'm getting at. But then the question in the comments was good, so I'm just gonna go with that. Now with that said, all week I've been working on this, but then it started with these sketches, and so I think this would be a good place to start, because in one of the videos when I was working on this, like earlier this week, I had said that there were reasons to approach things in a certain way, at least for me, why I approach things in a certain way. And I also mentioned that I would have to talk about it in another video, so maybe this video would be good, hence the title. So most of my professional work was done as a freelance illustrator for like mostly role-playing games and books and stuff like that. But that kind of feels like another life at this point. But I did gain a lot of experience. So really, from beginner to intermediate and all of that, I've done videos talking about that. That's really, it helped a lot to have deadlines, to have art directors, to have money involved. And so it becomes a lot more high pressure, which I also had to deal with, is the pressure of it. But I did learn a lot, and I did gain a lot of experience. So, for example, if I got a description from an art director, they would want a scene kind of like what I was doing in these videos. It might be, they would describe it, and I would have to do these little thumbnails, and I would have to do them quick enough and give them enough options, or they would want changes, and so I would have to be able to come up with a different version of it or revise it. And so I became really good at doing this kind of thing. Now, the work was done digitally because I was emailing the finished illustrations anyway, so it was digital, and it was also quicker to do it that way. So basically what happened was, and this is kind of another story, but for artists like me or illustrators who did digital art, I mean, basically we became what AI image generation is doing, is basically it took all of that, which sucks actually, because I didn't know. I had no idea. I thought I was just doing my job. But yeah, so I would take, let's say it was approved and they liked like a scene like this, which is pretty sketchy. It's basically a thumbnail, but like a layout. And again, if they wanted a few different options, I would make it even less detailed than this, even more of a thumbnail, because again, they might revise it. They might say, can we get it from the viewpoint of the king and queen looking out onto the court, kind of like with this, but, or they might say, yeah, can you include the queen or whatever the description is. And so that's a whole nother discipline, a whole nother topic. I mean, it taught me a lot, let's just say. I mean, it was a big part of my artistic journey. But let's say that they were okay with this. I mean, and after a while, you start to kind of know what the art director wants, like for that particular client. So I would just scan this in. I would either scan it in, or I would just do a sketch on the computer. And another topic is also just how to do illustrations and also digital art, which I have a lot of experience with digital art. I'm the type of person, I like to experiment anyway, so the question was asking like how to keep like the spontaneity, and that was always something that I wanted to keep. And so I would always experiment, but at the same time knowing that certain clients wanted things to be rendered a certain way and stuff like that, so you have to kind of deal with that. But I always made it a point to get away with experimenting if I could, and a lot of that just has to do with yourself. I mean, I think I compromised a lot in some ways, and then also pushed to have my art be a certain way, and yeah, that's like a whole nother story. But yeah, I'm always somebody who wants to have like the spontaneity if I can, but yeah, sometimes the client doesn't want that. So now let's go back to this. Now, I seldom, when I was doing digital work, I seldom would render it this much, like by hand, traditionally. Although, maybe in the beginning I might have done it a little bit more, but like something like this is a really good like tonal study, and like the drawing is good. I mean, and I would just keep developing it, and if I were to scan this in, I could easily turn it into a finished illustration. And as I'm saying this, let me go ahead and do some work here, do some sketching. So yeah, this 10 minutes is almost over, so hopefully that was helpful as just an introduction to these concepts, because I know that I have a lot of different people watching these videos, and I do want to just basically share what I know. So that's 10 minutes. I'll start another 10-minute timer. So as I'm kind of working on this, that's one way to approach the question of how do you keep the spontaneity. You could do it this way. So for example, this is almost filling this whole page, which is about like 8.5 by 11 or something like that, like a regular page. So when I see this, if I'm working on this, I can actually go in pretty detailed. So let me zoom in so you can see like the line work. So you can see that it's pretty detailed. Now I did make some changes just to, since I did work on this yesterday, made a video, like the hand here, it's different. I mean, there's a lot of different things. So you can see the level of detail that I got, and I could actually go in even more detailed. I didn't really use like the thinnest, but I could like really go in and like do another level of detail, which I'm not gonna do because I don't want to mess up my picture, but it's not necessary for this. That's why I'm not gonna do that. And it may not be necessary if you're going to scan it in and like paint it up digitally. And if we're talking about, because I don't know what the illustration is for, I mean, pretty much all my illustrations are going to be digital. So like, let's say I was going to use this for something. So there's a lot that kind of goes into it. So like I would do either cover work or interior work. And so a lot of times like for interior work, and again, this is a whole nother topic about illustration, which I really don't totally, I mean, you can ask me and I don't mind talking about it, but it's kind of a different path for me. And it's different now is kind of what I'm getting at. Like it was a certain way 10 years ago versus how it is now kind of thing. So some of what I'm saying, it's not applicable, but it's what I went through. But yeah, if I were to do it this way, and so this is personal work, and so going forward, I'd prefer to do personal work. But yeah, I could easily scan this in and basically touch it up or make it look more rendered, which again, I'm kind of going away from just because that's kind of the look of like AI stuff. So I'd rather have my individuality. And I feel like when I do it this way, literally like every pen stroke I put down, and it's very difficult to replicate. I mean, you could do it, and like if people can't tell the difference, then that's just kind of on them, I guess. But just me personally, yeah, this is how I want to do my stuff. So I'm just kind of fixing some things here as I develop this, which is now an illustration. But yeah, that's one way to do it, is to, you can see that it still has like kind of the energy. Now, there was an iffy moment between yesterday's video where if you look at like the before and where it's at now, where I wasn't sure. I was kind of in a no man's land about, did I like the direction it was going, which I do because I'm working on a dark fantasy book series and like world building for it, and this has more of a dark fantasy vibe. So part of it is the world building aspect, the concepts that I'm working on, the designs. Part of it is the materials I'm using. I'm experimenting. I'm still figuring out what I like. Now, this is definitely a good way to go about it. If I wanted to make it like more painterly, I could, and still keep it monochromatic like this. So the tools is just like this, a black pen, like a gray pen. So these are smaller point, medium point, just some markers. And of course, check out the other videos. They're from this whole week, but for like the gray. So, and yeah, and like some of it doesn't have to be the same. Like I kind of do these montages to experiment, basically, just a way for me to create a mood board is really So this gray has like this kind of look to it. Again, I'm also learning like about this. But whenever I was doing it digitally, I would kind of approach it the same way. I would just sort of figure out like the values and then figure out kind of sometimes it's helpful to, and I am going to do some digital art videos. It's just that I'm kind of working my way towards it because, again, I backed away from digital art so that it ended up helping me. It's such a weird time to be alive and to do art, honestly, but it ended up helping me become even better at traditional stuff, which is what I was doing to begin with. That's what I learned to begin with. But yeah, it's an interesting time. Now, if I were to like go, if my old self was here now, I would say, I would kind of do this, where I would say, look, if you want to, unless you want to go the AI route, which I don't, and I know my past self didn't or wouldn't have, I would say that I would do this, and then find a way to make your stuff look unique. Like that would be that's what I would tell myself, which is why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I could do the AI image generation stuff. I just, it's just not for me. It's not for me now, and it's not for me in the past, and it's not going to be for me going forward, because I don't believe in it. I think it makes you weak with drawing, with painting, with illustration, because look at like the choices you need to make as an illustrator. It takes all the choice out of it. Like anyone can do it. So yeah, and that's another topic. And I mean, so with that said, so this is one way to do that. The other way is maybe I'll do like another sketch page, because I'm at a point here, like I'll add some more stuff down here where like basically I can have fun with it as long as I don't mess it up. Like I can actually kind of just render this. It's not that hard, but like it's the difficult part is messing it up, and then you have to fix things. But once you have the drawing, it's not that difficult. But kind of going back and forth between let's say this is kind of a good example. Let's say that I wanted to have a bigger version of this. Now I do have some videos where I kind of show like how to do this. Like again, there's different methods, and that's just part of being creative, like a creative person, just coming up with different ways of doing stuff. So for example, in some videos, I've scanned in my sketches and then just went in and like drew it like more, because, let me zoom in here. So you'll notice that I call this a sketch, and it's not quite a thumbnail. It's more than a thumbnail. It's a sketch. And it could even be thought of as like a layout, meaning you could try to redraw this. It depends on the approach. So if you're wanting it to look maybe like this, where it's kind of realistic with all the forms and everything, then you could just take this, let me zoom back out again, and just draw it with like more realism. That's one thing. Or if you just drew it from a different angle or something like that. So it would still be helpful to have this, because this is basically the design right here. So you don't have to think about the design. Then you could just think about drawing the character. So that's one thing. The other would be to take this and scan it in and make it larger, and then just draw, like, but basically keep the same thing, but then you would just draw it. So that's 10 minutes. and I'll start another one, and this will be the last 10 minutes, so a 30-minute video. And so if you have, so you're basically going to draw over or trace over, because that was the other thing to do, was to lightbox it. So before I did digital art, I would lightbox some of the artwork, so like stuff like this. So if I wanted to have like a cleaner version or a more outlined version or something, I would have lightboxed it, and I wouldn't have drawn it in the like in my sketchbook. Now, if I had drawn it in my sketchbook, you could put tracing paper and do it that way. Or the other way to do it, so hopefully you're keeping up with all of that. I know it's a lot of information, but the other way to do it is to develop a shorthand, which is what's going on here. So you'll notice that I drew this from reference, and I was just wanting to get the gesture, I was wanting to get the proportion, or just warming up, or just having fun sketching. And then I just took that and then just drew this, and then drew like a thumbnail. So that's what that's for. It's not just to do it, I mean, it is fun, but like the usefulness of it is that if you can develop a shorthand, then you can draw stuff over and over and it's no big deal. And you kind of know, it's sort of like playing a sport where like you know when to run really fast just to like sprint, or like if you were playing soccer or something, like you're not going to sprint the whole time. And that's just an example, but it's kind of like that. Like, you know when you're going to detail it, you know when you need to like, so for example, what happened with this, well, part of what happened here is the same thing. I didn't record this part because there was a lot of work that had to be done. I had to draw it was iffy. If it came down to it, I would just use this whiteout marker to like fix things, but for now I'm okay with it, which is why I didn't want to do work on it, because you reach a point where you kind of have to, like, you can't even tell if it's good or not, and so that's a good time to just leave it alone. But same thing happened here, where I kind of love this picture actually, because I don't usually do like this skin tone, and I mean, it's not that I don't want to, it's just that like I used to do illustrations, so it would just depend on the project I was working on. But the thing is, when I was doing the video, I really didn't have that much to say, and I could have, I mean, I guess in a way I could do like a time lapse on it, but like it started off very different is kind of what I'm getting at. So I don't know. I don't think it would make for a very good progress video. But I'll do like another video about it though. So hopefully, I mean, that's just to get started on this intermediate concepts for illustration. I mean, that could be one of the themes. Yeah, but just going back to that idea of like just having different levels of how you work. So that's why I emphasize the thing about like stages, kind of knowing, and I'll do more videos about this. So I'm glad that this was brought up, but I did want to talk about this anyway. But yeah, that's why I talk about like different stages of sketching, to know sort of like, okay, right now I'm just kind of sketching. So that's what I'm doing like right now. So I'm gonna sketch, and just sketching out just stuff that I can see, that I don't have to like really think that hard about. And then the next is the shading. So this one already has some shading, and so I'm gonna just kind of do this, but I already figured out like the values, so I know I can go in with this and it'll be all right, because this will still look lighter than like this area. And there's no right or wrong as far as like the values. That's kind of another topic too that I could make a lot of videos about, because a lot of that has to do with the design. So part of it, so the thing with illustration is that to make an interesting illustration, there's a lot that goes into it. Like, people don't care, but hopefully there's still people that, I mean, obviously there's still people who do care, so that's great. And that's kind of who I'm doing this for the people that care. So as we wind down, I know that that's a lot of concepts. I'm going to watch this again, listen to it, and I'm gonna take some notes. But I mean, I feel like I'm serious about doing this. Like, I mean, I love art, I love drawing, I love illustrating, I love world building and writing and stories and stuff. So I think that basically I covered the main things that just to kind of go over it is, one, you can do a sketch. So I started off very loosely, and now I'm like rendering it, and you can get pretty detailed on a page this big. And if you scan this in, you can zoom in so close to it, like to the eyeball level, and just touch it up that way, and it would look great. If you wanted to add color, you could do different techniques for adding color. There's so many different approaches. So there's that. Then there's also the thing of sketching it in such a way. So for example, let's say I wanted to do a bigger version of like this. So again, if I were really rendering it, then I would keep that, because it has a lot of energy. It basically looks like the sketch, even though it looks different, but like I can tell that it came from that. It's not completely different. So I already like that. But like, if this is pretty loose, or let's say that I just wanted to zone in on one area, then just do it in a way where, like, if you had to redraw it, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. So part of that is also style, which again, it's also another kind of topic that I want to explore, is having different styles for, like, you can even see on this page, like this style or that style right there is a little different than that style. That's more rendered. And you don't always have to do that with everything. I prefer not to do that with everything, because that's like, it's like a song where you decide where the guitar solo is going to be or something. I don't really want to hear a guitar solo like the whole time. So yeah, that's why I call it intermediate concepts. These are things that, like, as a beginner, it's probably a little bit kind of over your head as far as what I'm talking about, because maybe as a beginner you're just wanting to know how to draw something correctly. So this is for when you know how to draw, or even if you don't know exactly, like, if you don't have to know how to draw everything, but like, you know how to draw, and so no matter what it is, you'll be able to draw it in some way in your style, and also compose it into a nice picture. So yeah, I think that's plenty to kind of go over, to kind of digest. And yeah, I want to thank you for joining me today for our daily sketching routine. If you like these videos, please support the channel. I appreciate it. And until next time, keep on sketching.